podcast that we're going to do today, it's really just a little question and answer session. We have so many people that want to know things about the sanctuary, about what we do here, about the animals, about really what it takes for Big Cat Rescue to be Big Cat Rescue. So we're going to answer some of the questions today. Some of our volunteers and interns are going to ask their own questions, and we're going to see if we can answer them for you.
New volunteer, what can I do to get more involved with legislation?
Well, to answer your question, you don't have to be a volunteer to help with the legislation. Actually, anyone can do it. And the best way is to go to our website, which is bigcatrescue.org, and look under cat laws. And that lists all the pending legislation that affects animals. It tells you exactly where to write letters, what to say, and what you should vote for and what you shouldn't vote for as far as what's affecting the animals these days. And it also breaks it down by state, so even if you're not from Florida, no matter where you live, there's a way that you can help animals, and it's so easy.
Scott, could we feed the cats roadkill?
Actually, we don't use any roadkill to feed the cats here. In Florida, a lot of the roadkill deer are just absolutely covered with ticks. We don't really have butchering facilities here on the property, so it's really just not safe.
I just want to know how come China and Sheikhan have such a large enclosure compared to some other tigers?
Well, Khan in China and even Aurora, they were our first 3 tigers here at the sanctuary, and they do have a much larger enclosure than the other tigers, and they were our only tigers for a long time. And we actually were able to afford to buy all the fencing and make them this large enclosure. But unfortunately, with so many tigers that are retiring and need homes, we just don't have the land to give them all big enclosures like this as much as we'd love to, and we definitely don't have the money. There's so many tigers that need a home. We just have to make do with what we can.
What would Big Cat Rescue do in the event of a brush fire?
So honey, if we ever do have a brush fire that's approaching the sanctuary, we do have a plan of action. Of course, one of the very few benefits of having all this development around us is there's not a lot of open areas or scrub left for the fire to actually get close. We have a little bit on a few of our perimeters, but really not enough for the fire to build strength. If we had a small one on the property, we do have a 10-acre lake, and we have pumps with hoses that we could put them actually in the lake, suck water out of the lake, and put out the fire.
Why aren't all the cats on the tour path?
It's very easy. We're a sanctuary, we're not a zoo. So some of our cats don't enjoy the interaction with the people, and we give them their privacy. This is a safe haven for them. This is where they come to live in peace. We have a lot of cats that just don't like people. Some of them were abused. Some of them were on display 24 hours a day. So it's kind of cool to be able to give them an area where they can feel free to move around and hide without someone watching them and them being looked at all the time.
Why does Nikki Lion live by herself?
Well, I'm glad you asked about Nikki. Of course, everybody knows that Nikki is one of my favorite animals out of the sanctuary, and nothing would make me happier than to see her living with a bunch of other lions. And believe it or not, we have tried to introduce her to lions before. We had a single female before. We tried to introduce them. We actually did have them together for a little while. It just didn't work. Nikki probably didn't grow up with her brothers and sisters, so she doesn't really know how to play or have any social skills with the other lions. As far as a male lion goes, the first time Nikki Lion saw Joseph next door, she really wigged out. She had no idea what he was. She felt very threatened by him and actually became very aggressive. That's why we put a visual barricade up between the 2 enclosures. So I would love to have Nikki Lion live with other lions. We've tried it before. I'm not going to rule out ever trying it again. But as far as it goes right now, she is much happier living by herself. And she actually gets so much attention and so much enrichment that I don't know that she's really missing out. And maybe someday she'll develop a little better social skills. Sad thing is that she seems to like tigers better than lions, so who knows.
I know that it costs a lot of money for the sanctuary to go on, so is it the government that does it help, or where is it coming from?
Marie, that's a good question. It is very expensive to run the sanctuary, and believe it or not, it costs almost $1 million a year. So as far as where the money comes from, it really comes from our donors. It comes when people come here and take a tour, when they buy stuff in the gift shop, when they sponsor a cat, when they make just a straight up donation or leave us something in their will. It comes from all sorts of sources, but the government's not one of them. This is pretty much a problem that people created. We're not talking about saving native animals, preserving habitat. We're talking about basically taking care of animals that nobody else wants and that someone bought or someone used to make money, and then they were done with them. So it's not really a government problem. So we don't get any funding, and that's why every little bit helps.
Scott, I have one more question. As being a new volunteer, I'm not allowed to go in the quarantine section. How are Joseph and his pride doing?
That is a very good question about Joseph's pride, and I'm not going to tell you the answer. You're going to have to wait until next week, because our podcast is going to be all about Joseph's pride, the 2 lions, the 2 tigers. They've been here almost a year, and I'm going to let you see how they're all doing. talk to them. They all have their collars off. They're no longer on quarantine, so you're gonna be able to see them when you come and take a tour. That'll be next week. It's gonna be great. Well, I hope you found that informative and that maybe those were a few of the questions that you might have had or something you wanted to know about Big Cat Rescue. If you do have a question you want me to answer, shoot us an email. You can write to bigcatrescue.org. Just put it attention Scott, and I will do my best to answer your question. And there's a lot of cool stuff to find out about the sanctuary, about the fur ball, about what you can do to help protect animals through legislation, through the products that you buy, just basically how you live your life as an average everyday person. There's so much you can do. So send us an email, let us know.